All right, guys. Today's lesson is on properties and properties of real numbers. All right, so we're going to be looking at the major properties in addition and multiplication, which is going to be your cumulative, associative, and your distributive properties. Okay, this is going to involve a little bit more writing because this is definitions. All right, so I'm not going to be really putting any examples on because the important part is what's pretty much on the screen right now, is making sure you have these. All right, so cumulative property says that a plus b is the same as b plus a, and for multiplication that a times b is the same as b times a. So what that's saying is you can reorder in addition problems. You can reorder your individual numbers into whatever order you want to put them in. And this is helpful when you have like a positive number here and you're adding that to a negative number. You can reorder that so you're taking that positive number and you're subtracting that negative number from it instead of the other way around. And sometimes it's just easier for you to think about it that way. So what that's saying, the addition property is telling you that like 1 plus 2 is the same as 2 plus 1, or 2 times 4 is the same as 4 times 2. That's all these properties are saying, is that you can reorder them however you need to. So if you use the cumulative property to complete each statement, x plus 8, cumulative property says you can change the position, so that would be 8 plus x. All right, 7 times x would be the same as x times 7. All right, the associative property. The difference with the associative property is you have parentheses. Okay, so you're dealing with 3 separate objects, but you have parentheses involved in this. So in addition, if you have close parentheses a plus b, and you add to that c, it's the same thing as taking a and adding to that b and c. So what that's looking at is it doesn't matter where these parentheses are. You can reorder these parentheses. You compare a and c, you compare b and c, compare a and b, it doesn't matter. Same thing with multiplication. A and b times c is the same as saying a times b and then c. It's the same kind of deal that you have up here. So if you have 1 plus 2 plus 3, it's the same as saying 1 plus 2 and 3. It's the same deal. So if you have these examples, you can rewrite this using the associative property. All right, so 3 plus 8 plus 1. All right, so you could pair that up with 3 plus 8 plus 1. Down here, same deal, negative 5 times 4 times 2. Can reorder that to be negative 5 times 4 times 2. Right? xy times 18, same thing as saying x times y and 18. Okay. Now these properties are important because as you get into more complex numbers, it will make your life a little bit easier to be able to combine things in a way that makes a little bit more sense. And here's a couple of examples to that. So right now you have the negative 3 and the x paired together and the 17 on the outside. All right, so to simplify this, you need to combine like terms, but this looks disorganized. This looks a little bit more confusing. So you're allowed to pair the negative 3 with the 17. So negative 3 plus 17 is 14, and then you add to that the x, right? 4 times 5x. You can pair together the 4 and the 5 and multiply x on the outside, so you get 20x. All right, the distributive property. So what the distributive property says is that you're going to distribute whatever is on the outside of the parentheses to each thing on the inside. Okay, so a times b plus c is the same as saying ab plus ac. So you're taking this a, which is on the outside, and you're putting it or distributing it to each of the individual things inside the parentheses. All right, so with this one, you would distribute the 7 in through each of these. So you get 7x and then 28y. Right, same thing with this. You distribute this 3 through. So 3 times 5, 3 times 9. Right, so negative 15, and then your positive 27. Right, distributing this if you have just this negative sign on the outside, that's the same thing as saying a negative 1. So you're distributing this negative sign through to everything. So negative 1 times 8 is going to be 8. Negative 1 times 1 is going to be negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is going to be a positive 1. So you have negative 8, negative x, positive w. All right. So the identity properties. The identity properties are saying what can you add to a number or what can you multiply to a number to get the same number? So a plus 0 is always going to equal a. So when we're looking at the identity property of addition, a plus 0 equals a. The identity property of multiplication, what times what number is going to equal that same original number? So a times 1 is going to equal a. Any number times 1 is going to equal that original number, just like any number plus 0 is going to equal that original number. Okay? All right, inverses. So what do you need to do to a problem to get it back to that kind of identity? So if your identity in addition is 0, what do you need to add to original number to get to 0? So a number plus its opposite, or number plus its negative, is going to equal 0. So a plus negative a will be 0. So your identity property in multiplication is with a 1. So what do you need to do to the b to get the value to equal 1? And you would need to multiply that by its inverse, by its reciprocal. So b times 1 over b will equal 1. That's its inverse property. All right, so what property is illustrated here? You have the original 5 parentheses x plus y, and it turns out to be a 5x and a 5 plus 5y. All right, what are you doing here? What does this look like? Well, you're distributing this 5 through, right? This one. Okay. You have a 0 here, and you have a set of parentheses here. What do you think you're going to be dealing with in that? It's going to be the identity property for addition, right? And it's not really going to be associative because that identity property overrides the associative property to a certain extent, right? This is commutative. You're changing the position of things. See how the order has changed? It's no longer 5x and then 11. It's 5, 11, and x. But you're also messing with the associative because you're changing what's being paired together. All right, so you can have both associative and commutative in the same problem. That's completely normal. Okay? And we're not going to do this one again. So if you want to copy these ones down, all right, associative property, you didn't reorder anything, okay? It's still 5x and y, 5x and y. Nothing got reordered, which is why it's not commutative. It's only associative. The parentheses, the pairing, what's associating with what has changed. You have a reciprocal here, a base number being multiplied by its reciprocal equals 1. That's going to be your multiplicative inverse, okay? Negative 5 plus 5, that's your additive inverse. So what gets you back to your original base value, all right? So this lesson's relatively easy. It's mainly rules. There aren't really that many examples to go with it. So what I want you guys to do is make sure you took notes on all of this, all right? And then go through, do the example problems. It shouldn't be that much work. You've been using these properties already this year.